morning, everyone, and happy start to an amazing week. And welcome to Connections Online Studio and to our live chat. So I'm Nat, I'm Connections Director of Communications and Outreach. And this morning, I am beyond thrilled to welcome Mardoché Mertilus again to our live chat. Thank you so much for coming, Mardoché. This is,
it's my pleasure.
Awesome as always. So Mardoché is Liaison Agent and Instructor for the PAPPa Project under the Regroupement pour la Valorisation de la Paternité. So I thought that quickly we could go through what you do, your role, all the amazing work that you've done. So as part of your work with the RVP and also as part of your PAPPa Project, because that falls under the RVP,
Yeah.
You've worked extensively with a number of organizations to help them connect with fathers. So basically that's your role, is to tell all those organizations out there how wonderful dads are and how important their role is in the family as a whole.
Exactly.
So maybe you could tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure. So, like you mentioned, I work for le Regroupement pour la Valorisation de la Paternité, which is a regroupement that's national. So, my position is to cover everything in Quebec. So, when we're talking about the regroupement, we've been here over 20 years, and our main goal is to give trainings to different organizations, which is the PAPPa Programme, which is le Programme d'adaptation des pratiques aux réalités paternelles. So in that program, what we do is that I offer different kind of trainings to nonprofit organization or institutional that would love to include dads more in their services. So our job is not really to work with dads, but to work with the intervenants that are working with dads, and to show them a little bit how they could push a little bit their practice to include the dad more. But when people hear about RVP and they hear about what we do, they think that, like, okay, we're only working for dad. But it's important to say that behind the mentality behind everything is to have a co-parenting relationship. So either we're talking about dads, we're always trying to include the mom to make sure that there's an equality in the relationship for the benefit of the child.
And 20 years, I didn't realize that your organization had been around that long. You've done so much work. And in fact, you've helped in so many ways. In fact, I was looking at your website, which I thought was really interesting, about the fact that 96% of dads say that they love being dads, say that they want to be part of the family whole, say that they want to do more, as dads. They want to engage 100% in their role. But it's interesting because 49% feel that they actually aren't treated equitably in their role as fathers when it comes to government support and services. So though they really want to be dads, they just find that there's not a lot out there. At least 49% feel that there's not a lot out there to support them as dads.
Exactly. Like you said, the little survey we did, and that just shows a little part of the society that would explain that. But it's true that, like, we're seeing it more and more, that this new generation, not only this new generation, but the generation a little bit before also, they want to be involved in their child's life, and they want to be recognized also as a great partner, but as a great dad that's implicated in their child's life. But they feel like in the system, sometimes, especially when we're talking about the justice system, they feel that their role is not equal as the mom. And some organization, sometimes they don't realize it, but like the dads will tell me, they're like, Bombardo, when organization are trying to be inclusive, they'll use the word parent. But for a lot of dads, parent means mom when it comes to an organization. So that's why it's important for an organization, if they're trying to include dads, to actually use the little terms activities for dads or activities for both parents. But when you want to include dads and you want to do something specific for dads, I think it's important to use those terms, because that will be able to make a difference. And obviously, we won't be able to change society's mentality right away. But I think with time, the more and more that people start adapting their language and start realizing also that, like, yes, sometimes you want to work with dads, but to work with dads, you got to work with moms. And sometimes to also change a little bit of that perspective in the mom's head could really definitely help our society change the mentality we see dads.
Yeah, and I just love that, the idea of dads and moms, right? The idea of bringing
Yeah,
those two together. And of course, if we want fathers to be more part of the family whole, then we have to give them that chance to do that as well. And so there should be
that's
more programs. And I know that Quebec is on its way to doing that. I mean, when you look at parental leave and whatnot, dads really do have more time with their kids at home, right, when they're born and
yeah,
whatnot. But of course, there's so much more that needs to be done so that dads really do feel like they're part of that whole, of that family whole, and that they have an important role to play.
exactly.
Now, last time that I'd seen you was actually last week during a recent conference that you hosted, and you spoke quite a bit about co-parenting versus parallel parenting. I just really loved, again, you're talking about that terminology, right? The importance of co-parenting in the sense that it's about attentive listening, communication, working together. And that for you is regardless of whether a couple is together or whether they're separated or divorced. It really is important that that they work together so that they can improve the overall well-being of their child. So maybe you could talk a bit about that with us.
Yeah. So when we talk about this approach, it's just that for us at the RVP, when we're talking about the co-parenting in parallel and the co-parentive cooperative, what we mean by that is really like we want to make sure that at the end, parents are able to communicate for the well-being of the child. And in an event of a separation, we see that often. That sometimes the parent will talk strictly when it comes to the child, but by doing that's already fine that they're doing that because they're communicating. But if they're not being respectful of the other parent, that falls down on the child, and then it doesn't help the child to feel safe with both parents or to feel that they are able to share certain information with both parents. And we never want to put a child in a situation where they have to choose. You know, do I feel more comfortable with dad or do I feel more comfortable with mom? Because that also gives the other parent the feeling that maybe the other parent is talking bad about them. So it's really important when we're talking. It could be in a situation of we're together or in a situation we're not together anymore. The bottom line is to have a great communication to make sure that the child doesn't feel like that they have to choose either side, and that will give great benefit for when that child grows up and for that child to be able also to understand that the communication of both parents are important for them and for the parents as well.
And that they can trust that they can go to both individual parents or both
Yeah,
parents together if something, if they need help or support or whatnot. So I just,
exactly.
yeah, and I love that idea of co-parenting and whatnot. And you did talk about consistent parenting, sharing tasks, and recognition as well. So recognizing the role of each of the parents and what they do within the family, which I thought was amazing. And you actually have tools that you've also produced, and I'm actually going to be sharing those later on in this live. So if parents want to
Okay.
take those tools and whatnot. Now, one of the things that really struck me while you were talking about this, and I just really, really love this, was your take on fatherhood. So for you, the role of fathers begins as soon as the couple finds out that they're pregnant, right? So
Yeah.
a father isn't when the child is born. For you, a father is as soon as the couple is pregnant. And I think that has a lot to do, why you have your prenatal classes for dads, right? Because you're kind of
Exactly.
introducing them to that idea that their father's now. It's not when the baby's born, it's now. And so it's important for them to kind of start thinking about that role. And basically, right? So you do prenatal classes 4 times a week. So tell us a bit more about those, because I think those are really amazing classes. And I think it's an amazing way of, bringing the father in right at the beginning when it's most important.
Oh, thank you. So, Yeah, like you mentioned, but I started that like about 10 years, 11 years ago, that I created a course for dads. And the goal was really for the dads that are taking the prenatal classes to feel included. Because we can't lie to each other that in our society, as soon as a couple finds out that mom is pregnant, automatically the focus is on mom. And the way that we include that, it's to tell dad, make sure that you have to be there or do a certain thing to support mom. But we seem to forget that dad, that person, is also dealing with a bunch of emotion, especially when we're talking about a first child. So there's all this mental health going on that we can't really talk about it. We don't really know who to talk about it or who to share with. And we can't start stressing mom because we're telling us not to stress mom. So I think it was important that we have a space where we can explain to dad that it's okay to share and for them to be able to relate to other fathers that are in the same situation. So with the prenatal classes that I do, that's what I think it's important. And it depends of the organization or the CLC that will hire me to do it. But sometimes I'll just do one class after the CLC did the 4 class for the parents. I'll just do one for the dads. But other organization now are starting to mix it up, and they're telling me, Mardo, can you create class for both parents? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. So by doing that, and I like to do it with a nurse or with a doula, you're giving the mom also a message because a lot of women out there are like, yes, I would love my husband to be more implicated. It's just the way the system is made is that we're showing them, yeah, they're there to support, but there's more stuff to that. So in those classes that I do, I include dads and moms. So I give classes to both parents, but I always bring that dad twist to see that from a dad's perspective, there's so much more than just supporting and not stressing mom that we could do. There's all the thinking of like, how can I find a connection with my child without mom telling me what to do? So that's what I bring in those classes. And like I said, I've been doing that for like now 10 years, 11 years, and more. It's getting bigger and bigger. And I think all around Quebec, but I'm saying Quebec, but I was asked to start some in Toronto also, but even in Ontario. I'm starting to see that this people are realizing it's important. We've been telling dads so much this is how you should do it, but we're waiting for them to already have the child. If you include them as soon as they find out that they're about to become a father, you have a better chance for that dad to be more implicated in the child's life. Even if the relationship doesn't work out, at least the dad will be aware and informed on how their role will be perceived by that child. So I think it's extremely important to catch them as soon as possible and to be able to give them as much tool and to make them understand that they are important and they have a big role in that child's life. So yeah, as you can see, I have a lot of passion when I talk about it. I love those classes, and like from the feedback that I get from dads, they're like, "Oh my god, it's amazing!" And even moms, they're like, "Oh my god, I never thought that like one day." I would like take a class and where there's actually a man being there and talking to us about breastfeeding and stuff like that. And like, yes, I know my stuff, obviously, but it makes it more inclusive. It makes it less, oh, it's a mom topic, and more, it's a parent topic. So that's what I think it's important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it kind of plays into the whole co-parenting as well, right? Because
Yeah.
if a dad is there at the beginning and they're already sharing their feelings and they're already talking to their wives, to their partner, and the two of them are talking, then they've already started communicating about their child, right? They're already practicing so that when I'm thinking of first child, but once their first child is born, they're kind of they've already started, so they're ready to kind of take on the next role, right, of partnering
Exactly.
while the child is there. So I just really love that, how you bring them together, how you have a space for dads where they can communicate among other dads, right, because you do
Yeah.
have the dads do communicate with other dads, but
Yeah.
now but then you introduce them together as well so that the parents, the partners can communicate with each other and just really start that
Yeah.
whole co-parenting. I
And
just
if
really
I
love
could
that.
add, And if I could add something that like I start doing that maybe I would say in the last 5 years, in the class that I do, let's say the class is 2 hours. So and I'm doing it with a nurse or with a doula. What I'll do is that 1 hour will be as a couple, and the other hour will separate. So the moms will be with the nurse or the doula, and the dads or the other partner will be with me, and we don't give the same content to both parents because we want them to be able after the class to start talking to each other and to start exchanging about that. And by doing that, we're promoting healthy communication, and
Yep.
we're helping them also share how they're dealing with certain emotions and stuff like that. So I think by doing it this way, I think it's a good way to promote healthy communication also in the couple, and to make them realize the most important thing I always tell them is that you guys were two. I don't know for how long, but you guys were two. And you guys, mom was your first priority, dad was your first priority. But now you guys are becoming three, and the child becomes the first priority. And how do we deal with that? Because things are about to change.
Yep.
So it's important to talk about it, you know. So and it's well received, really well received.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And it's great as well that you have the nurse and the doula there as well, because then it kind of has that extra, right? Because then they
Yeah,
start talking about the importance of having dads. And then I guess the word spreads, right? So it's a really great way of kind of starting things off, I guess, in terms of creating that family dynamic, right? That well-being within the whole.
yeah.
Anyways, I really love the whole prenatal classes for dads, and I love how you bring all of that, right at the outset, so that dads can feel better about who they are as dads and as husbands as well, right, within the family.
That's true. That's true.
Or the partners, I should say, not just dads. But
Yeah.
so I also wanted to bring up, you have a 3-day conference coming up next week. So February 23, 24, and 25. And I love the title because it's PAPPa Conference, which means it's a
Yeah.
super of dads being super conference. So what exactly will be discussed during those 3 days? I'm really curious what it's all about.
Okay. So la Super Conférence, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's our 17th edition or 16th edition this year. So the way it came in is that the RVP decided, because at the RVP, I talked to you guys about the PAPPa program, but another thing that we do at the RVP with my director, Raymond Villeneuve, is that he has a lot of connection when we're talking about dad policies, parents policies. And our goal is really to make the awareness that some of those policies need to change to better include dads. So, like you mentioned, we do have like statistics on our website because we do a lot of research when it comes to that. So, the goal of La Super Conférence was to be able to present what is going on right now around Quebec for dads, and what are we able to do more, but also to be able to give different trainings. So we have around 300 people that shows up all around Quebec at those at La Super Conférence, and it's to be able to get trainings on how to include dads. We could talk about like how to include immigrant dads, how to work with dads that are dealing with situation of divorce, or how just to work together as a community. So there's the part of the training, but there's also the part of like coming to learn what's happening out there when we're talking about like government policies for dads. And also it gives a great chance to all those workers that are working around Quebec, around dads, to be able to do some PR and to see what's happening. Like, let's say, what's happening in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. Oh my God, I didn't know that they have this program for that. Oh, maybe we could include that in our services also. So it's a great way, like I mentioned, to do PR
Mhm.
and to be able to come learn new stuff. But yeah, it's a 3 day that are like, but the first 2 days, the 23 and the 24, are when we're having the trainings and the conference. And on the 25th, what we do is in Communauté de Pratique, is where we choose a topic and we work together with different intervenants around Quebec to kind of reflect about that what we decide the title was going to be, and to kind of share our thoughts on like how can we make it better for dads. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're in the middle of like doing it and processing it, and it's hard when we have to do it obviously on Zoom. It's not the same when we used to do it in person, but yeah, it's going to be great though. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it sounds like it really is going to be great. And we just got a comment from Danielle here, who was talking about what an amazing service. I just wanted to put that up for you, Mardoché, and for everyone. So what I'll do is in the comments later, because I just don't have the link right now, is I'll make sure to link to that SUPAC conference so that others can pop in, take a look, see what's on there. And you're actually going to be speaking as well.
Yeah.
I think you're speaking on the first day. Is that possible?
Sorry?
I think you're speaking on the first day, I think.
But me, I'm not necessarily, because people saw my picture, they're like, "Oh my God, you're presenting," and I'm like, "I'm not really presenting," because but all the people that you're gonna see, I'm actually introducing them, but
Okay.
I work with all of them, so
Yeah.
I know all their programs. But yeah, I'll be there on both days, but I'll be there on every 3 days. But on both days, I'll be there to introduce the workshops and introduce the people that are going to talk. And it's really it's in contact also with some projects that we're doing, because with the
Okay.
RVP, we're always taking new projects. So we have a new project going on for dads that have kids that are dealing with a handicap. So we
Okay.
have one organization that's going to be talking about that, and we're working on also another project where I'm working with different organization that works with immigrants. That so we're going to be talking about that work that's happening also on that project. So and there's a few tools that are going to be mentioned, and for the English speaking community. I really recommend that you guys are there, because we have great surprise happening there for the English speaking organizations also, because for the last 3 years we've been working with CHSSN, because the RVP is really was francophone, and but for the last 3 years really we've been pushing to really include the services for dad but English speaking dads. So and that's why I also have a project working with different organizations for CHSSN. But yeah, it's gonna be great. So I invite you guys to go register yourself and to come have fun with us, and let's bring the dads to a new level, like you said.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Mardoché. I'm really excited for you for next week. I really appreciate you coming on. It's amazing
My
the amount of
pleasure.
work that you have done and that you continue to do. Every time I see what you're up to, there's always something new. So it's so nice to see how much is being done for dad, because it really is important that they are part of that family unit and that they
My
feel part
pleasure.
of it as well, right?
Yeah,
And that there's more government
exactly.
support and services out there as well, so that they can be part of it. So as
Exactly.
always, it's a joy chatting with you about all the amazing work that you've done. And I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning, and remind you to please make sure to check out tonight, Monday, Thursday. We have some students who are coming on, who are doing some fun activities. And I want to wish everyone a lovely week. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.